Hello, folks, and welcome again to another Thursday Night Live, fresh back home in Canada after a lot of miles traveled, a fantastic event in Orlando, Florida of PodFest and the Healthcare Amplified Summit over the last week here. James, my arms are tired, pal. I just flew in. But it's been a whirlwind process here for the last week and a half for your Soaring Prophets, boys. It's nice to settle back in a little bit. It's kind of nice to get back in the home, some of the traditional things that we do in life. But we have a fantastic guest here tonight. After meeting some amazing and fantastic people, we're so privileged to have Kyle Greene. And Kyle is one of these guys that is sort of that unsung hero in our community, is going around really making that difference when it comes to your children, our children, and the future of our nation's children, going into schools, talking with them, and addressing some of the issues that are going on in the community and helping people make that change. And Kyle, first of all, pal, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know we had a little technical stuff before we got on here, but I think we figured it out. And Kyle, we've met through a few people. Hearing his story, hearing what he does, I think is one of those inspirational processes. And again, I'm so thrilled to have you. Kyle, welcome, pal.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, Raquel, our good friend, kind of made the connection, and she is absolutely amazing. I love everything about Raquel, her energy. We are actually going to be co-hosting an event in Houston sometime in March or April, I believe. So super excited about that, man. I'm super excited.
I believe that's one of her rock the boats, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah. I had to put, there we go. I had to throw the hat on and be the cool kid in the class today, because when I look at what Kyle's doing, well, and maybe some of the Soaring Prophets merch stuff, but when I see what Kyle's doing, this is the sort of thing that really is hitting home in our communities right now, is that all too often we just don't have these kind of youth mentors. And yes, Kyle, you're still one of these youth mentors, even though you might be one of those older-ish youth mentors. You kind of fall into that demographic of myself, but you're going into schools, and maybe you could talk to me a little bit about, first of all, how you got started with that. Because it's not every day that guys are walking into schools and saying, hey, I want to help people. You know, we have this kind of instant gratification society that we live in now, where people are like, what's in it for me? I want mine. So walking into a school setting, working with the teachers, working with the parents, and then really boiling it down to the students. Like, what is your message when you first approach a school? And what is it that you're bringing to the table with what you're doing?
So that's a really good question. So how it got started was, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar when Trayvon Martin was murdered in Sanford, Florida. So when he was murdered, I was sitting in my living room and I heard his mom. She was speaking at a 1 million march, and it was in New York. And I think like Reverend Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, they put it together. And as she was sitting there and I was sitting on my couch in the living room, she said, this could have happened to any one of your sons. And so my son came downstairs, and he was about 7 at the time. And he gave me his Rockstar hoodie that me and his mom bought him from Old Navy. He said, Dad, I can't wear my hoodie anymore. And I said, why? He said, because I might get killed like Trayvon Martin. And so I didn't want my son to have that type of mindset where he felt like he couldn't wear his hoodie because he might get killed like Trayvon Martin. So for me, it was first changing my son's mindset. And I said, if I'm going to change my son's mindset, I gotta do it for other kids who also in the community who think and feel like this. So what I simply did was I went on Facebook and I said, hey, what do y'all think about doing a rally for Trayvon Martin? Sin. And so I went to sleep because it was like late that night. I woke up in that text. Well, not that text, that post, it went viral. Wow. So I had hundreds of comments, hundreds of shares, hundreds of likes. And people were like, Kyle, I'll help you do this. I'll help you do that. So the one thing that I will say right here is sometimes when you put something out in the universe, like God or whatever being that you believe in, it holds you accountable to that. So I simply just said it, not really having the intention on really doing it. It just felt like it sounded good. Right. Now, before that, I was working in IT. Like I got my degree in computer information science. I got 3 CompTIA certifications and A+, Network Plus. Security Plus. I have an apprenticeship from the United States Department of Labor as a certified network technician. That's why I couldn't understand why my computer wasn't working. I'm like, I have all these degrees. I have all of this IT experience. Why can I not figure out the sound? So
Yeah.
I did this rally, right? I get there and it looks like it's about to rain. And this event went viral in 2 days. So I get there Saturday morning. It looked like it's about to rain. And you know how we get, right? I said, God, why would you give me this idea if all you're gonna do is let it rain out? Like, why would you give me this idea? I was like, now I'm gonna look stupid, and it's because it was your idea you gave me. And so I'm walking, back and forth, and I'm just mad at God. And then suddenly, God has like the biggest sense of humor. So he departed the clouds, and the sun like peeped his head in, and then like thousands of people started coming from the park, and I just called it the 1,000 hoodie march. The police came and they did the estimate. They said it's about 3,300 people here. So in that moment, I was like, yo, I brought all of these people together. It was white people, black people. At that point, I was working in corporate America. I also was managing an artist. So I did like music stuff. So I had the music industry people. I had people that was in the streets. I had people from the streets. I had my corporate people. I had political people from the city. All of these people came together for a single idea that I had. And so that kind of like blew up. And then we walked around Finley Park and it was like, Kyle, they want to hear you speak. I'm like, I'm not a speaker. Like, I don't speak. So I got on the mic. I said, thank you for having me. They said, we can't hear you. I said, oh. I said, thank you for coming. I just want to thank you for coming here. And I'm excited, man. My son felt like he couldn't wear his hoodie anymore. And I don't know if your kids was thinking like that too, but I don't want that to happen in my community. And so from that event, man, it just really just took off. And it's crazy because, man, when you put something in the atmosphere, when you put something out in the universe, like it holds you accountable to it. And I was just held accountable for that moment. And that moment ended up becoming a movement. So anybody that's out here listening, a moment can become your movement. I took a Trayvon Martin moment, a tragedy that happened in our country, and I created the Kyle Speaks movement. And now I speak all over the country.
I think that's incredible. Like, so through this Soaring Prophets journey that we're on, Pat and I, it is incredible how many have similar stories where they're just a tragedy hits and they just, to make sense of that tragedy, they do something to make it different. And it sounds like you had that moment. And the other fun kind of idea is that a lot of people like, I'm just going to put this out in the universe. No one's going to care. It's not going to be a thing. And you have 3,600 people show up to a thing that you were like, you know what? I probably should do something, but you put your money where your mouth was and you showed up. And the fact that you say at one point, like if you're listening out there and you're listening to this guy right here, Kyle Greene, and he just said that he's not a speaker. I don't know about you, but I saw him for 30 seconds on Rock the Boat. They were doing a live on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with him right away. I love his movement. I love what he's doing. I love he's going into high school. He's talking about mental health. He's talking about all those hard conversations that right now people don't really want to talk about. So when you're in the high schools, what are your main objectives for the kids?
So when I go into high schools, my main thing is to show students how I came from like nothing, right? And when I say it came from nothing, like my family, we were poor. Like I don't come from a whole lot. I tell everybody, I got everything out of the mud, like literally. So I want to show students that if I overcame, that you can overcome. Like I want to give them that type of hope. I want to, because sometimes, man, hope is a missing thing. I remember when Barack Obama was running for office, and he was like, hope, like hope. And a lot of times, man, all people need is a little bit of hope. And so when I go into schools, man, I give kids hope. And it doesn't matter if I'm speaking in Newark, New Jersey, in an urban city like that, or if I'm speaking in rural South Carolina. Like kids all over the country, they need hope. They need to feel inspired. They need to feel empowered. So I go in there and I share my story. I tell them my mom was on crack my whole life. And I hated my mom because my mom never showed up for me. My mom never came to any of my football games. She never came to any of my basketball games. And I hated my mom with every fiber of my being. So when I say that, I immediately get students' attention because maybe their mom isn't in their life,
Yeah.
or maybe their mom isn't showing up. So they like, oh, let me hear what he gonna have to say. So then when I say, I remember my mom lost not one but two boyfriends that overdosed when they were getting high, and I remember how much I hated her. And I went to the first guy funeral, and I only went because I thought my mom would have an epiphany and she would realize that she had two kids that she would have to be there for, but it didn't happen. And then I tell him, I remember my mom like burning herself from her chest to her neck, freebasing. And I said, I remember seeing my mom with these severe burns on her chest, and it didn't even hurt me because she was never there for me. So I was like, how can I hurt for someone who's never been there for me? And then I say, I remember my mom was shooting up with a dirty needle and got bacterial meningitis. And then the meninges on her brain went haywire. And as a result of her shooting up with a dirty needle, now my mom can't hear. I said, so like, if you see somebody like me, I have every excuse to go a different path. Like I should be in the streets because my mom wasn't there. My father wasn't in the.
So
sorry,
Kyle, when we see individuals walking into schools, your story hits on a very different level than the average teacher. You know, you've got Timmy who's heading off to science class today, and that teacher, for all intents and purposes, was, you know, an A student, went to university, got that education, and is educating and teaching to that level, right? Hasn't maybe had a lot of adversity in their life. When you come in and you tell a story like that, you know, the other 50% of the population looks at and goes, shit, that hits home. I understand that. I understand that trial. I can see now where this man has brought himself to educate himself, pull himself up, like you said, from the mud. That is the stuff that our education system lacks in such a big way. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, you're going to get that in school. You're going to get that no matter what. But those inspirational pieces, those people coming in off the street, and given that cold, hard reality, pulling back kind of that veil of our society, when you walk in these schools and you tell these people your story, you know, everyone's the cool kid in the back of the class until you have something that kind of impacts you deeply. Kyle, maybe you could tell me something that you've told your story. One of the kids is like, wow, dude, that hits.
I would be here all night if I just told you that. But it's one story, it's one situation or encounter in particular that happened, and it made me realize that my story can impact lives. So saying my mom was on drugs, my father wasn't in the home. My father was a good man, but he wasn't in the home, and I wanted my dad to be there. I didn't learn how to read until I got into the 8th grade. Like teachers just passed me along, but I did not know how to read. I would see words on a sheet of paper, but I couldn't make out the words. Then I didn't learn how to read until the 8th grade. I had a daughter when I was 16 in the 10th grade. My grandmother raised me. So when I throw like that wide net of my story, it attracts every type of student. It doesn't matter what type of student. I don't care if you got both of your parents, if you don't got none of your parents, like it immediately pulls onto their heartstrings. So I was at one school and I finished speaking, and I had all these kids come up to me. They usually crying. They usually want to give me a hug. They usually want to share something that they have going on. And it was this one white kid. And he said, I was going to kill myself. He said, and I drive with my shotgun on the back, on like a rack in his truck. And he said, I told myself I was going to take my life today. Wow. He said, but I knew he had a speaker today, and I just wanted to hear what the speaker had to say. And he said, when you first got up and started speaking, I really didn't take you seriously. He said, you didn't really look like me, so I figured you didn't have anything to share, so I was just there. He said, but as I was listening to you speak, he said, something woke up inside of me. And he said, I didn't take my life. This happened 6 years ago.
Wow.
This kid messaged me this school year before school started. He's an adult now. He said, you don't remember me, right? He said, but you came and spoke at my school. I said, Jim, I do remember you. You had the white pickup truck that was jacked up. And I was like, and you said you was going to take your life. He said, oh, wow, you do remember me. I said, yeah. He said, well, I want to tell you. He said, I'm grown now. He said, I got a job. I got a girlfriend. We about to have a baby. And he said, I want to invite you to my baby shower because you changed my life. He said, if it wasn't for you, man, I wouldn't be this. Like, I still get chills like running up my spine just even thinking about when I read his message and what it meant for him, that I still remember him and remembered the whole situation. Like when I go into schools, man, I hear this over, but that was probably one of the most profound ones when he said, man, I was going to take my life. And then now 6 years later, he's an adult. He has a family. He wanted to invite me to his baby shower. I'm black. He's white. So the work that I do, it doesn't discriminate on race, right? It doesn't discriminate on age. Everybody needs to feel empowered. Everybody needs a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I think what you did there, like, so I'm a big proponent, especially in youth, because I feel like youth are so divided and so surrounded by social media and all of these things hitting them that they're not strong enough, not smart enough, not good enough, that they don't get seen, that they don't feel seen. They don't think that anyone understands them. You know, when I was a youth, same thing. I didn't feel anyone understood me. I didn't feel seen. But I think it's harder now because at least I didn't have messages telling me every day how crappy I am and how I need to lose weight or I need to gain weight or I need to, you know, buy this product. So it's harder. So I think it's amazing that you're going in and you're like talking to a whole room and at the same time seeing them all. And then you're also, I've watched some of your clips and stuff. You're building a community. And those are the two key factors in saving a person's life. They have to feel like they're seen and they have to build a community. Can you talk about how you're kind of building communities and structuring once you're in the high schools?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you noticed, because one thing that I know is my life changed when I had a speaker come to our high school. His name was Senator Clemente Pinckney. He's from Jasper County, same hometown.
Okay.
He was murdered in his church in Charleston, South Carolina on June the 17th, 2015. That's when the kid walked inside of the church and killed everybody. The pastor was my mentor. And he took me under his wing when I was in the 10th grade. And so when he spoke, he didn't just speak to me that one time. He spoke, I told him his message really resonated with me, and then he took me under his wing. And so when I speak, I take students under my wing. Like, I don't know how many students I have under my wing, but I have students all over the country who's under my wing. And so I see them when I come. They feel like I see them. Because sometimes I go speak at a school, it's 3,000 kids. I have a kid come up to me and say, man, nobody's ever seen me before. I'm thinking in my mind, I just spoke to 3,000 kids. Like, I don't think I really remember seeing you, but they felt like I've seen them. And so once I make that connection, I make that heart connection, then I can shape their mindsets and their behaviors to do something different. Like when I wear I wear shirts when I go speak, and I wear shirts with sayings for a reason. Because if you're not hearing me, you reading my shirt. So you like, man, be different, be different. What does be different mean? He told me I can be different. I should be different. Like, so I get these kids, I go back to their schools, I message them on Instagram, I like their posts. If I see them smoking weed on their Instagram stories, I call them out. Because you're not about to be, like, I'm not about to be following you if you're smoking weed. I'm not about to be following you if you're showing a gun. Like, and that makes them feel like, oh, Mr. Kyle, man, I wasn't really just, I was just playing. Nah, well, I don't play like that.
Nope.
Like, I'll unfollow you if you keep doing that. And so I be just trying to change, like, their behaviors and their attitudes. Most people come to their school and speak, they don't follow them. I follow every single kid that follow me. I respond back to every single message. When a kid DMs me, like, I make them feel like I am like their big brother.
Dude, I love that on so many levels because, again, so I went through athletics in my academic school and that sort of thing. It sounds like you were a football guy. You certainly got the build for it. What position did you play?
I played wide receiver, free safety, and I was the punter.
So the guy did it all. This guy's a killer, you can tell, right? You probably had mentors and coaches and people that held you accountable. And there's only 32 guys that maybe make that football team that have that experience. And then the rest of the school, that 3,200 don't. So when you're standing there and you walk in and you're on their social media being like, put the gun away, put the weed away, put this away. What are you doing? You are taking and changing the trajectory of these people's lives in a way that is literally about what Soaring Prophets is all about. Like when we say above here, the unveiling of stories of champions, it's not just a tagline, folks. It's bringing amazing people like Kyle to the forefront. Because, Kyle, how did your CNN interview go this week? You didn't have one, right? How was your MSNBC interview this week? I don't think you had one. So you're going out and changing the world. There's no bullshit. It's not political. You're just making real things happen. And where's the media? Where's the TV crews? You're changing lives.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get in front of people with amazing stories like you, touching individuals and really diving deep into it. But when you started this, obviously you've got this story. You had, unfortunately, your mentor in that situation, but you had a rock bottom probably in your personal life.
Yeah.
What was that? And then what was it where it's like, okay, this has got to change? Obviously, the Trayvon Martin situation is it's an eye-opening experience. I remember that situation vividly. I remember the whole Zimmerman trial. I remember all of those things that were going on. It rocked the nation. It rocked the world. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
You brought so much triumph out of these trials. But when you woke up that morning, what made you hit send on Facebook?
I think it was sometimes, man, you have those moments where you feel like you have to do something.
Yeah.
Like, just feel like, man, I can't just sit idle. And again, before I did the Trayvon Martin thing, I was still very active in my community. Like I was at the rec league park. My son played basketball. So my son is one of the top basketball players in the country. He is ESPN top 100. He is the number 11 point guard in the country. He's a 4-star, 27 scholarship offer, Georgetown, Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas A&M. He committed to the University of Central Florida in Orlando to play basketball for the UFC Knights.
Congratulations, Dad. That's a pretty proud moment.
It's pretty cool.
From strong safety dad to point guard. What is he?
Yeah, he a point guard. Yeah, I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day. My son is 6'3", 6'4". I remember asking his mom. I said, "You sure my son?" I said, "You sure he mine?" She said, "Yeah, Kyle, he yours." I said, "Oh, okay," because he my retirement plan. He just don't know it yet.
I got a 14-year-old one of those. She doesn't know it yet either.
Yeah. He doesn't know it.
So I woke up. I hit send. I said, "Man, I just got to do something. I can't make sure my kid is good and not the other kids in my community. Like my home can't be good and everybody else home is chaotic. To me, man, life has to be bigger than you.
Yeah.
Like to live your purpose, when you live a purpose-driven life, it has to become like bigger than you. Like my life is bigger like than me. You can take a rock and throw it in a pond and it'll create all these ripple effects off of one rock. And so I said, yo, if I throw a boulder in that lake, if I throw a boulder in that pond, like I'm a boulder. Like I go into cities and I throw myself into these schools, man, and I get these kids to think about something different. I get them to believe in something bigger than themselves because we live in such a selfish society where it's all about us. Like if my doorsteps is clean, I don't care about nobody else. For me, man, I want my doorsteps to be clean. I want my kids to be good, but I want your doorstep and your kids to be good too.
I can tell you right now, he's not making this up. If you guys think that, he's all talk, I was in this room that I was watching him. I was watching him and Rock the Boat, beautiful Rock the Boat. And they were doing the Instagram live and there was kid after kid after kid just loving on him. Just, thinking he's wonderful, thinking he's great. Principals were showing up and going, "When are you coming to my school?" Over and over and over again, praising this guy. And that's why I had to have him on. I messaged him 5 minutes after he got off the live and he answered immediately. I thought there's no way this guy, like he's big, obviously. Like there are hundreds of people that are following this guy, thousands of people. He's not getting back to me. Got back to me right away. So I'm telling you right now, this guy's the one that's making the difference and it's huge. And that's how I feel, Kyle. Like I really do. Like we used to, when I was a kid, we would have block parties where the whole neighborhood would come out. You'd set up tables, you'd share food, you'd play music, you'd dance, you set off fireworks together. And now I don't really know my neighbors except to say hi when I walk out the front door. Yeah. We don't have those communities anymore that we can rely on. It used to be that if I caused trouble when I was a kid out in the community, by the time I got home, my dad got 4 phone calls about it and I was in deep trouble. Yeah. Now everyone turns a blind eye and it's unfortunate. And I love that you're building this community. I also love that not only at the schools are you touching base with them, you're following them on Instagram and you're calling them out. And I'm going to guess. So I am going to guess that you have several success stories, but can you give us one of these kids that has moved on and done something and attributes it to you? Much like what a wonderful story, like a touching moment that you saved that child's life. That is incredible, man. Like if that is all you've ever done in your life, that is worth it, brother. I'm telling you right now, that is worth it. But I'm going to guess right now there's a woman or a man out there that is doing, like you said, God's work, spreading the message because of a pivotal moment you had. And maybe you could share that with us.
Yeah, so I was speaking in Camden High School. It's in Camden, South Carolina, and I met this kid, and he was a basketball player, but he didn't really have any direction. And I spoke. We connected on Instagram, stayed in touch, and now he messaged me. I mean, almost every week. And he said, "Mr. Kyle, man," he still called me Mr. Kyle. He said, "Mr. Kyle, I really look up to you." Even he an adult now. He said, I'm gonna go join the military." He said, I'm gonna join the Navy." And he said, "Because I want to make a difference like you." So he currently serves our country.
Wow.
And yeah, and again, I don't know what path he was gonna take before, and I never
Yeah.
know what path these kids gonna take. But the guy the kid who's grown now, who invited me to his baby shower, like he's serving the country, saying like I want to do like you and make a difference. Like
Yeah.
I got thousands of those stories. I spoke to a girl in Texas. I never even been to her school before. I just know a lady that's there, and she said, "Kyle, I got this girl who want a student who want to write a book. She don't know how to do it. Can you help her?" I got on the phone with her. I helped her, told her how I self-published my book through KDP, Kindle Publishing, an Amazon parent company. Told her how to do it. She's self-published. I think she's on her fourth book now. She's still in high school. She writes children's book, and when I see stuff like that, it happens everywhere. I went and spoke at a school. Kid came up to me because when I go speak and give the big message, your life has a purpose, and I give them an acronym for purpose. Most schools always bring me back because they say, "Yo, I've never seen my students respond to a speaker like you." So they bring me back. So some schools I do I come back once a semester. Some schools I come back once a month, and I do stuff around self advocacy, like self-worth, understanding who you are. Do it on leadership. I do it on overcoming adversity, and I do one on business. So I talk to about financial literacy, and then I have them create a business, and then they have to come up and they have to present it in front of their peers. And I had this one kid. He came up with this clothing line. It was called motion movement or something. And I was like, "Yo, that's a really dope idea. You should probably do something with it."
Yeah.
And he ended up messaging me. He said, "Mr. Kyle, man, like my family, they didn't know what I wanted to do. I told them that you was in our school, and I created this business, and they invested in my idea." He said, "I never thought my parents would do this." I said, "Yo, bro, I'm gonna be the first one that's gonna buy a T-shirt from me." He said, "For real?"
Yeah.
I said, "What do you mean for real? Like I told you take this idea, you did it. Of course I'm gonna buy it." So I do stuff like that, man. I just love these kids. Like I love these kids, and I don't just say it because it's like the cute thing to do. Like in my heart, man, I love all these kids like they my own.
Well, you've certainly created a network effect, right? And again, James talked about that community aspect, but you're also leveraging a tool that is very important to this generation with the social media stuff.
Yeah.
Why, first of all, like we just came from Podfest down in Orlando, Florida, helping out with the Healthcare Amplified folks down there doing interviews. But one of the things that we saw down there was this really unique group of people that are leveraging their voice in podcasting, looking at monetization, looking at advocacy, looking at literally changing laws in our country for the better. But social media is this weird dichotomy. There's two ways people go with it. Either it's Lambos, drugs, girls, guns, all the shit that goes along with that. And then on the other side, you've got amazing people that are doing what you're talking about. How did you decide to jump into the social media piece? First of all, why? Because you're jumping at their level. And then how have you sort of leveraged that to get your message and amplify your message from that?
That's a really good question. And Raquel, yes, it is. Raquel asked in the comments, was it Clarissa? Yes, it was Clarissa. I've never met Clarissa before. But again, I showed her how to write a book, gave her the steps, and I think she's like on her fourth book. And I bought one of her books too. But anyway, so what I did do was, before I started speaking, I would wake up every single morning and I would write a post. I would write something like, the world needs you, like you are enough, like you can do anything that you put your mind to, sin. And then in the afternoon when I got off work, I would write another post like, don't let anybody steal your joy, sin. And I did that for like a year. I did it for like a year. Every single day I would write a post. And so I always had a social media presence, right? But I don't think I knew how to use it then. So when I did that Trayvon Martin rally, I got a lot of followers. When my mentor was murdered and I was on CNN years ago, I kind of got like a lot of followers.
So you did get the CNN interview.
I did. I was on CNN. I was on Fox News. I was on the 700 Club, but I was only on it once though.
Yeah.
Gotta get you back. We're gonna get you on here now. We've broken that,
Right now.
that bond. You're gonna be on there every weekend now.
Yeah.
So I always had a social media following. I understood how important social media is, and I said I would never use social media to bash anybody. I'll never use social media to like bring anybody down. It would always be empowering. And so when I started going into schools and I would start having students follow me, then I said, oh yeah, this is it. This is how I can keep their attention when I'm no longer in the school. So I tell principals, I tell educators, I leave your school, I never leave your students because I know where they are.
Yeah.
And so like my daughter is a social media influencer. She has 280,000 followers on TikTok. She is a massive influencer. Matter of fact, she's at the Bob Marley movie that's coming out. She's at a secret screening now because she's a social media influencer. They invited all of her influencers. And so I use her platform, the platform that I have with students, and I just keep these students engaged. They always see something positive. They always see videos of me at other schools. Oh, Mr. Kyle, when you coming back to my school? So I just think that you can use social media to help or to hurt. I just chose to use it to help.
I that's totally true. Like, so that's kind of the thing we try to do. We try not, like, when you come into our house, Kyle, you come into our home. We're not here to make you feel uncomfortable. We're not here to ask questions that are gonna like hurt you or anything like that. We always try, whether we agree, whether we disagree, we always try to be hospitable, because you're absolutely right. We don't know what people out there are watching. I want to spread positivity at all times. I want them. There's so much negativity right now out there. There's people losing their jobs as we speak. There's food, there's hunger. I was just talking to a teacher today, and I was saying, the way I deal with kids is different than the way that teachers deal with kids, because I see them as a whole person and you see them as 30 people. And when I see them as a whole person, what I mean is, I know that maybe their mom didn't wake up this morning and they're at school now worried that their mom isn't waking up, or they don't have any food because there was nothing in the fridge because it was all rotten, or they their parents were fighting as they left and they're not sure if someone's safe or not. And they're dealing with that when they enter the door. And teachers don't always see that because they have 30 kids to deal with. And so they see the ocean. They don't see the pebble inside the ocean. So I was trying to convince her, I'm like, just take some time, just breathe. When you see that kid that's super upset or acting different, my question is always why. My question to them is why. I'm always like, Kyle, today is different, buddy. Today, for some reason, you're super angry, and I don't know why. That's all I want to know is why. It doesn't matter that you punched a kid. It doesn't matter if you flipped over a table. It doesn't matter if he's like super quiet. Ask him why. It changes their life. And so it's all about doing that positivity. So I'd like to get into your books, because you have two, I think, or the last time I checked, you had two. Could you tell us a little bit about your books, how we get them, and what they're about, and why they're important?
All right, so real quick, I have to do this. I have to do it. So I spoke last night. I did a Zoom call for my friend. She has this company. She wanted me to talk to her employees. So I did this, and it was really profound to them. Hopefully somebody that's listening, it'll be profound to them. So when I go into schools, and it goes along of what you said about how you see students as human beings, where teachers only see 30 students. So when I talk to educators, I always talk about that. I said, the first thing that I do is different than you is I see them as humans. I don't see them as a student. And so that changes the playing field. That changes, like, I'm not the dictator. I'm not the boss. They know that I'm the boss, but I see them differently. So this is a illustration. So when I speak, I love to bring my messages into like, I love the analogy. So in my hand, and I said this last night, and they loved it. In my hand, I have a glow stick. And maybe I should just call it a stick, because the purpose in which this glow stick was created is currently not being served. Right. Everything that this glow stick needs to operate in its purpose is found where?
Inside.
On the inside.
Yeah.
This glow stick needs nothing to operate in its purpose. Nope. Everything that it needs is already on the inside. Yes. So I did some research, and this is what I found out. Glow sticks were created in 1962 by a scientist. His name was Dr. Edwin Chandros. And he created because he was fascinated by fireflies. He went in the lab, and then one day he found out the 3 chemicals needed for glow sticks to happen. One chemical is called oxalate ester. The other one is called fluorescent dye. The third one is called hydrogen peroxide. When you hear that breaking sound, it's that glass veil of hydrogen peroxide. And when those 3 chemicals are broken and mixed together, it causes a chemical reaction. Causes a glow stick to then serve its purpose. When I go to schools, I give students glow sticks. And I say, everything that you need to operate in your purpose is already on the inside.
Yeah.
It's already on the inside. I said, but some of you have to be broken. My life didn't change until I was broken. My mom was on drugs. I was broken. Dad not in the home. Broken. I had a daughter when I was 16 in the 10th grade. Broken. My life didn't make sense until I broke open and discovered everything that I have on the inside. So instead of calling the chemicals oxalate ester, fluorescent dye, hydrogen peroxide, we're going to call one our passion. We're going to call the second one our potential, and the third one our gifts. Everybody has passion. Everybody has a potential. Maybe your potential is stored up potential. Maybe you have untapped potential that you're not even using. Everybody has gifts. Beyonce didn't go to Target to buy her gifts. LeBron James didn't go to Walmart to get his gifts. Everything that they had was already on the inside. I just need for you to break open into it.
Yeah.
So now the purpose in which this glow stick was created is currently now being served, but it didn't happen until I broke it. Somebody that's listening today, man, everything that you every goal that you want to make, every book that you want to write, every business that you want to start, it's already on the inside of you. You just have to break open into that. So sorry to do that. Hopefully that helps somebody, man.
No, man. Do you know what? That is beautiful. So I don't talk about glow sticks. I talk about point of impact. Point of impact is so important, because what happens is in everyone's life, everyone, I don't care who you are, there's a point of impact. That's the point where you feel you can't go any further. You're going in the wrong direction, and you know it. Now, at that point of impact, though, you have a short period of time to act on it, because you can get all the greatest ideas in the world. But if you don't break into your glow stick and let that come out, then you're just going to keep repeating the patterns, and then you'll need another point of impact to initiate it. And that is amazing, man. I love that. I just want to remind everyone that he started this interview with, I'm not a great speaker. I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, if you could tell us a little bit about your books.
All right. So my first book I wrote is called The Mentality Changer, a journey to help change how you once thought about you. How you once thought about you. Because after you read this book, hopefully you change how you once think. So in my book, I write about this chapter, I call them journeys. I don't call them chapters, because I believe journeys get you to a destination. Again, mindset shift. So it's winning is a mindset. And I talk about what is your mindset? How do you think? Do you think like a winner? And I give the illustration of Michael Jordan. Everybody wanted to be like Mike. But do you understand what Michael Jordan's mindset was like?
Yeah.
Another, like my favorite journey in this book is Journey 7. And I talk about haters sit courtside. And I'm like, not everybody sitting courtside is really on your side. Don't you think for a second that all of your friends are really your true friends? Exclamation mark. Don't you think for a second that every family member who says they want to see you make it, meaning another exclamation mark. Don't you think for a second that the people in your church aren't praying for your downfall instead of your rise up? Another exclamation mark. So when kids read my book, they like, yo, Mr. Kyle, man, they feel like you be talking. Because when I get like really hyped, oh, that's exclamation marks at the end of the sentence. I said, there are people in your life who show up every single day to watch you play, and they are secretly rooting for you to lose as they openly cheer for you to win. Understand that these people come in all shapes and sizes and forms. They may be disguised as friends who you assume who had your back, but constantly trying to stab you in the back, or that family member who says that they want to see you do good, but just not better than them. You know how that is. We got that family member. Oh,
yeah.
you're doing good. Then when you start doing better than them, oh, you better than us. Nah, boo. You were cheering for me when I was beneath you. Now I'm above you, and now it's a difference. So, like I talk about stuff like that, man. I believe if you can change your mindset, you can change your life. And if I can get you to have like a subtle shift in how you see situations, hopefully it'll change. So every journey at the end, it acts like reflection questions. So you get a part where you can reflect on what you read. Like this one, it says, have you ever experienced a family or friend sitting courtside wishing you to lose? Another question is, how did that make you feel? Did it make you want to give up? The third question is self-assessment time. Are you cheering for the people in your life to succeed or fail? Because now I need to know, are you the hater? Like, are you the person that's hoping that they lose? Because if so, then I need you to change your mindset, because you don't get good things. You don't get opportunities if you put out bad energy. Like if you put out, if you hating, if you downing somebody, like you won't get the things that's stored up in heaven for you because you hating on everybody else. So that's what the mentality change is about. The second book is the one that I wrote with my daughter that I had when I was 16 in the 10th grade. It's called #Father-Daughter Goals, how a beautiful bond between a father and his daughter was formed by a simple promise. And the reason why that subtitle said that is because I remember when I had Bree when I was 16 in the 10th grade, I was embarrassed. Like I'm in high school having a kid, like that was almost like I had the scarlet letter on my forehead, walking in school having a child. And I said, God, if my friends don't look at me any different, I said, if my family don't turn their backs on me, I said, if my church, if they don't like shun me, I said, I'll be the greatest father that I can be to my daughter. And I kind of live by that, man. I've had full custody of my daughter since she's been 7. She graduated 3 years ago from Columbia College, got a degree in business administration, got a minor in leadership. She's a social media influencer. And now my daughter runs my speaking business. So, yeah, so we wrote a book together called #Father-Daughter Goals. And we just share how we became goals. I write the first part. She writes the second part. So you get the perspective from the dad, and then you get the perspective from the daughter. So those are my 2 books, man.
So
People
Kyle,
love
that speaks to me in such a profound way. And again, I got a 14-year-old little girl who's not so little anymore, about 5'10", heck of an athlete, all these sorts of things. And that story reminisces, like it really goes back to my story as well. I had her very young. I've had full custody for the majority of her life. And when you get an opportunity as a dad to be a father, to a daughter, that's a very unique thing. A lot of these guys, you put your kid here. We're in Canada, right? So everyone wants to see their son be the next NHL kid. You've got your son off going and playing basketball, but that little girl, there's something about that it just hits very different. So
Right.
when you started with that, and you have this beautiful little girl reach up and grab your hand when you're walking across the road, it's just different. You're preparing her different for the world. And it sounds certainly like you've done fairly well for yourself. And, you've got to be proud of her. And I'm certainly sure she's proud of what you're doing. But maybe you can tell a little bit of the difference between how you raise your daughter and how you raise your son, and what that looks like, and how you're preparing a young man for the world and all the trials and tribulations that are going to come with that. But also that beautiful young woman that you're raising that's doing amazing things in education and social media and now in the business world. How are they different?
That's a really good question. So, and I see somebody said, I can see why Patrick can relate to. Somebody said in the comments. So when I had my daughter, so I understand this, and I say this in the book, in the book, Father-Daughter Goals. I said, a girl is going to find a guy that mirrors her dad, right? And so I knew the way I raised my daughter, when she found someone after I've taken her, like to the point of I'm gonna hand her off in the altar, that guy needs to be a reflection, not just he don't have to look like me, but his values and how he treats her has to be reflective of how I treated her. Because I still take my daughter out on dates. We still watch Netflix movies together. We still go to the movies when the movie comes out. Like me and my daughter have an amazing relationship. Now, my son, on the other hand, I wasn't as hard on my son when he was in school as I was on my daughter. Sometimes my daughter be like, "Dad, like, see, you should favoritism. Like, you let KJ get away with stuff. You wouldn't let me get away."
Yep.
Sweetie, I'm not about to let you go to a party. I'll let KJ go. I'm not gonna let you go. Because I know when I was in high school, if a girl came to a party, I was trying to smash.
Bad intentions.
Very
Yeah.
bad intentions.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she respects me so much now. She couldn't understand it when she was in high school. She wasn't too resistant to it. She just, she would have her moments, but she thanked me so much as an adult. She said, "Dad, I am so happy you were so hard on me the way you were, because I am not like those other girls.
Right.
Like, I am not like them." Now, my son, on the other hand, with him playing basketball, he was always one of the top kids. They kind of sought him out early. So he was just so focused on basketball. I kind of let him get away with more stuff than I did my daughter. But it's like such a sweet balance that you gotta walk with raising girls, man. And I just didn't want my daughter to be taken advantage of. I didn't want her to be put in a really bad situation that she couldn't control. So I kind of controlled a lot of it, and now she appreciates it. So your 14-year-old, she might be resistant a little bit on how hard you are, but when she's 24, my daughter, she's 26, she tell me all the time how much she thanked me for it.
Oh, Pat's daughter definitely appreciates it. She doesn't like it all the time because he is kind of tough on her, but it's an awful thing. And I have these talks I have a lot of female friends, and I have these talks. It's not fair. It's not fair that our daughters can't go to a party and be safe. It's not.
Right.
But not being fair and reality are two different things.
Yeah.
And I feel for it every time I have these talks with him, and I'm like, I agree with you. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish that there was more men out there that would step in front of the guys who aren't okay and will protect those women that are at the party.
Right.
But there aren't as many of us as there are of the other guys. Yeah. And hopefully that changes. I think now that the messaging is getting out, me too, and we're getting to learn more about how we should treat each other and that we're all equals and stuff. I think it will get better. But you do really have to protect your daughters more. You can't just let them go wherever they want. So like I was talking the other day about how I went running at like midnight. Like I went on a 10K run at midnight. And I was talking to a female friend. They're like, "Well, I never do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess not." It didn't even cross my mind. There was no moment that I was like, I have to get my keys. I got to get my bear spray. Right. Never crossed my mind. Every time they leave the house, this crosses their mind. Yep. And it's a terrible thing. And I hate that. But it is something we have to talk about. So when you're at these talks, do you talk differently? Like, do you separate the ideas between women and men? Do you talk about gentlemen being gentlemen? No.
Well, no. Well, it just kind of depends. So if I'm speaking at a high school, middle school, it doesn't matter. College environment. I kind of just share like the message, right? And it's kind of like a pastor in a sense. I could never understand how a preacher can preach one message and it can impact everybody in the congregation differently. I didn't understand it until I became a speaker, because I used to see people shout for certain situations. I'm black, if y'all couldn't tell, so black folks shout in church and they get up and run around, and I couldn't understand it when I was younger. I'm like, why they just getting up, shouting and running around and passing out and stuff? And it wasn't until I started speaking where I saw how one message can impact 700 kids differently.
Yes.
Or they can take the one thing that they need from the message. So when I talk about boys, so if I talk about my son, the one thing that I say is my son gonna always hold the door open if a girl is walking behind him. He's gonna always be respectful to his teachers. He's gonna always be respectful to females. I don't necessarily say it. Well, I say it so boys can understand. If I don't play that with my son, I don't play that with you either.
Right.
But I don't just kind of do it to gear towards that. That's just part of who I am. That's just part of the message that I give, especially when I talk about my son, so they can understand he's not just a top player in the country in basketball. He's really one of the top players at the private school that he goes to in Atlanta, Georgia, in the classroom too. And he's a really good human being, because he's not like that basketball jerk, the jock who's just good in sports and not good in class. My son plays the trombone. My son was on the chess club team. So my son is a well-rounded kid. So I kind of just give them the full totality of what my kids look like and how I raised them, to take bits and pieces that can help them.
And Kyle, that goes to such a just who you are, first of all, as a man, secondly, as a father, that leadership that you exude. Your children just eat it up. And again, my daughter's very similar to that. Heck of an athlete, and, you know, championships, all the sorts of things, and none of it matters. None of that matters. It's the little things when she gets asked to represent her school or her sport, to go off and do something in the community and represent them. That's the one that I'm like, we got to get a different trophy for that. I don't care about the medals. I don't care about the wall that she's got in her room that's all there. It's when her peers and the teachers come to her and say, I want you to represent us, a high school of 1,000 kids, for this sport, for this issue. And as a father, that's when it's kind of like that little check mark. You're like,
yep,
might not have done so bad there. She's a fantastic rugby player. She's a volleyball player. All of these sports mean nothing. She will never be a pro. Sorry, hun. I don't want to pop your bubble.
Yeah. And you can sell houses.
But what you will do is you are going to be a champion in your life.
Yes.
You're going to hold the door, and not just for that person coming behind you, but for that person that had the shotgun in the truck.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff as a father that, you know, you've done it. We've done it. We've had these experiences, but our kids sometimes don't see it because we do it at work. We're doing it in our social life. We're doing these things, and sometimes they're just not there. But Kyle, it sounds like you're bringing your kids along for the ride with the social media stuff, with the business aspect. Like, dude, you have been everything you were billed as. It has been such an amazing pleasure to have you here. You are legitimately what we talk about here with that unveiling the stories of champions.
Yeah.
You're killing it, man. I love what you're doing. If there's anyone out there right now that has connections with schools, connections with corporate, this guy, he'll get glow sticks. It's going to be a party. We're going to have a great time doing it.
Right.
But this is the stuff. Like, and again, I go back to, we just came from Podfest, great experience. And one thing that I was left with, and, you know, I'm kind of professing a little bit here, but when we left Podfest, James and I kind of looked in the mirror and we're like, well, what did we get from that? What was the experience that we had? And social media and a lot of these speakers are empty vessels.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. These people that are like prolific speakers go around the world and talk to them, and you talk to them off stage, and once they're off script, they have nothing.
Yeah.
They have no experience. They've had no point of impact. They've had no life experience like what you've done. And they sit there and they are experts. And I go, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
Kyle, I love what you're doing, pal. You are changing the world in a way that I think will ripple through the generations. I love what you're doing. Your kids love what you're doing. Your community loves what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend. How do people get in touch with you? How do they work with you? What does that look like?
So I want to say this before I hang up, man. I want to say this before I get off. And I end every single message with this. It don't matter. I mean, I didn't even talk about the work that I do when I go speak in prisons. And I don't even charge for that. I just do that because sometimes that's a part of society that we throw away, that we forget about. There's somebody's son, there's somebody's daughter. So I go, I don't care what you kind of did. I just want you to not feel like you're an animal locked in a cage. So, because they're still human beings. Anyway, but it don't matter where I'm at. I end every message with this. Success in your life doesn't just happen. Every morning that you wake up, you're given another opportunity to make it happen. Success is simply a mindset, and those who think that they can become successful many times do, while those who think that they can't many times don't. How are you thinking? How do you view your current situation? Is it success or is it a failure? Are you basing your success on those around you? And if you are, who's to say that they're even successful? Quit looking into the mirror of others, trying to find a reflection of what your success looks like. Your success looks like you. You own your success. And if you stare off into your mirror long enough and you don't like what's reflecting back at you, only you, not your mother, not your brother, not your sister, your cousin, but only you have the ability to change it. So do something in your life that has never been done. Do something in your life that will cause your haters to stop and acknowledge your accomplishments. Achieve a goal that not even a family member said that you could do or had a chance on completing. Birth out that dream that lives in the pit of your belly. Birth it out into a world and make it one of the greatest realities that mankind has ever seen. Yes, you and not just me can do some amazing things. If only you just think that you can. Yes, you and not just your friend. You can defy all the odds. You can beat back all the stereotypes and you become whoever it is that you desire to be. Yes, you are not just the local businessman or businesswoman. One day you can own your own business, hiring your own people, being your own boss. You can do the unthinkable. If only you just think that you can. And you can do the impossible. If only you believe in the endless possibilities that surround you each and every day. And guess what, y'all? You can reach heights that you once thought were unreachable. But first, you just got to be willing to reach out your hands. So my name is Kyle Greene. If you ever want to contact me, my email is Kyle A as an awesome Greene with an E at the end.com. On Instagram, it's Kyle Speaks _. Facebook is Kyle A Greene. Twitter is Kyle Speaks _. So if I can ever help you with anything, man, I'm just one message away.
Well, I'd like to add anything, but I don't think I should because that was prophetic, beautiful, and just amazing. Kyle Greene, you are not only who you say you are, you're a genuine human being, and I love what you're doing. And if you're out there, and I assume it's just America that you're traveling to right now.
I mean,
is that right?
Yeah, I'll go speak to a school anywhere. Yeah, like I'll go anywhere.
Yeah? Oh, maybe we'll talk after this. We'll see. If you have a school, get this guy in your school. Not only is he helping the kids while he's at the school, like most speakers who go, they collect their cash, they say their piece, and then they walk out the door and forget that the kids even exist. This guy, you just heard him. And I've watched him. Like, this is all legit. He knows these kids. He knows who they are, what they do, where they are.
Yeah.
He's telling them to put down the gun. He's telling them to get away from the weed, and he's telling them to step forward. And that's a message that anyone can get behind. So go out there, get this guy at your school, get this guy at your group, get this guy at your prison. I'm telling you right now, anywhere this guy talks, he's going to change your life. He's changed life right now.
Yeah.
Listening. Anyone listen? Go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
Well, I know he certainly has for me, Kyle. The inspiration that you bring to these topics, and again, when you have that experience of, you know, put the shotgun back in the truck, and as a Canadian, that's an odd concept for us, but that when you save somebody's life, that ripple effect is wild. So, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are the coolest cat in town, and I thought I was going to be with the hat on and the Soaring Prophets merch today. I went with the hoodie, man. I thought I was on brand for this, but dude, you killed that. Yeah, there we go. James is here too. But dude, the honesty, what you bring to these conversations, you can see our comments. Yeah. Everyone loves you. You come so highly regarded, and pal, it was an absolute pleasure to share the last half hour with you, or the last hour with you. If there's anything we can do, I would love to be able to help you along your journey, because I really do. We talk to people that are, you know, trying to change policy. They're politicians. They're all of these things, and I just feel like you're doing it better. So, from me, folks, Soaring Prophets, we've got some really cool things coming down the pipe for you. Again, guys like Kyle Greene coming on here and changing the world in their own little way. From me, folks, as always, let's make some money together.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming. I knew this was going to be huge. I've been talking to Pat about it a lot. I couldn't wait to get Kyle Greene on. I fell in love with the man the moment he opened his mouth the first time he was talking with Rock from Rock the Boat. And you guys know that I already love Rock the Boat. What they're going to do combined coming up here, you watch. It's going to change the world, and I love every second of it. Profiteers out there, feel seen, feel heard, build a community. Let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. Now, Kyle, I know you've already given tidbit after tidbit after tidbit, but we always leave with our guest giving an inspirational moment, reaching out into the darkness and picking someone up. So if you could reach out into the darkness right now and pick up someone through that camera lens, we profiteers here would appreciate it.
So I'll just go back to the glow stick, right?
Mm-hmm.
This glow stick, it symbolizes us. It symbolizes us metaphorically breaking open and letting our light shine. Because in a world that's filled with so much darkness, your light, it can make a difference. In a world that's filled with so much hate, your love, it can make a difference. In a world that's ravaged, filled with war, your peace, it can make a difference. I just need for you to believe in your difference. I need for you to believe in your light. I need for you to be different. I love y'all, man. Peace.
Amen, pal.